Hello and welcome to the Mansfield Town Shirts YouTube channel. Today we are going to be finding out who stays and who goes. Let's kick off then with the players that are already under contract, which are Will Evans, just going to move up here, Keanu Bacchus, Deji Ashalaja and Fraser Blake Tracy. I would expect all four of those to be at the club next season. I have heard of interest from Preston for Will Evans, allegedly. And potentially for Keanu Bacchus, but I would expect all four to be at the club next season. Fraser Blake Tracy's injury is a bit of a worry for next season, so we really need to keep him fit. But the other three, Evans is top goal scorer, Oshalaja being the player of the season, clean sweep of all the awards this weekend, and Keanu Bacchus has really come into his own in the last few games and shown sort of his quality moving down from Scotland last season. So the next man we can see in the list is goalkeeper Christy Pym. Believe we may have an option on Christy Pym from his original deal, but for me, he's last season he was exceptional, one of our best players, and a real hand in getting us promoted. He started this season quite well, but for me, his shot stopping from long range comes into question, as does his charge of the box and taking charge in set pieces. And for that reason, I don't feel as confident in him as I'd like. And I think for me, I would probably put Christie in the release box. I mean, if maybe we trigger an option, sell him, there's interest from Wigan. Apparently, he could, of course, go there on a free. If we don't exercise any option on him. But for me, he's been a great servant for 2 and a bit, so 3 seasons. But yeah, for me, I think the end is up for Christy Pym at Mansfield Town. Jordan Rhodes, his loan will just expire. It hasn't really had the impact I think a lot of us hoped, being one of the leading EFL goal scorers of all time. Just didn't happen for him. Has scored a vital goal at Stevenage away, but he was still on goal this weekend, in the game at the weekend, and missed. So yeah, he's just not, for me, had the chance. He has been playing up front on his own quite a bit, which doesn't really suit him. I don't think he needs somebody with him. We obviously had Gregory and Evans injured during the time that he was here, but yeah, for me, I would just let that one expire. Lucas Akins again, I think it's just a release, isn't it? Obviously, we know what's happened with him recently, and we won't go into that. But yeah, for me, he will leave the club officially at the end of his contract. So Hiram Boateng. Anyone who watches the Mansfield Matters podcast will know I used to be the probably only member of the Hiram Boateng fan club. But I think he's another one who I would release. I don't think I've seen enough this season in the times that he's played. He doesn't get a long run in the team. He hasn't had a massive run in the team. But for me, he just hasn't been at the level required for League One. It's certainly seen it at his previous clubs, MK Dons, for example, and Exeter. But for me, I would release Hiram this season. I think he's, again, been a good servant for us. But yeah, I think his time's up at Mansfield. The next player on our list is Ben Quinn, who I think he's probably maybe worth keeping and loaning out next season. I mean, I would only offer him a 1-year deal and go, look, just see how you get on somewhere on loan. We haven't seen him really at all since, I don't think he's played since the Stevenage FA Cup game back in November last year. So for me, he hasn't really had a chance to prove himself. On that basis, I would give him a chance and loan him out next season, see how we get on. He's not going to be on a massive wage, so give him a go, see how he performs at another club, and yeah, revisit that probably in 12 months' time. The next one may be a little bit controversial, Elliot Hewitt, but for me, he's been too injury prone. He's had big injuries. He's not come back since he was player of the season before he got his injury. He came back, then got injured again. He just doesn't seem to have that burst of pace and that dynamism that he had down the right-hand side before his injury. And I think at the minute we just carry too many players who get injured quite a lot. And Elliot is one of those players who, unfortunately for me, you can't rely on to play a full season or really even 6 or 7 months at a time, because it just doesn't seem to happen for him. So unfortunately, I would say thank you very much for your service, Elliot, and he has been a great servant for us, and say goodbye. But that's probably a controversial one. I think a lot of people would probably keep Elliot around. We know the answer to this one. This one has already happened. Stephen Quinn has already left the club. As of this weekend or the weekend I'm filming this. When we played Exeter was his final game, and you only need to listen to Steve McLaughlin's interview about the impact that Stephen Quinn has had on this club. If there was I could have created an option for keep as a coach, because I think he really would do a fantastic job as a coach at the club, Stephen Quinn. But it's not to be, and he's going to hopefully stay in football somewhere else. Bailey Cargill. Now, I believe we may have an option on Bailey Cargill, but I'm going to stick him in keep and offer a new deal if he hasn't. He's definitely someone we want around next season. One of my probably players of the season up until the last sort of few months where he sort of dropped off. He had a bit of a nightmare away at Exeter where he got brought off after not making a massive effort to jump at a corner that we conceded from. But you definitely have him around. Probably one of our best defenders in terms of being able to beat players and play key through balls, and brilliant down that left-hand side. So, yeah, Bailey Cargill's definitely one we should be keeping for next season. The next player on our list is George Williams, who had a real tough season with the death of his good friend George Baldock during the season. A really, really tough one this for George Williams. For me, hasn't done enough to warrant a new contract next season. Clough hasn't played him a lot. Maybe a new manager would have maybe played him more, but for me, Clough, who looks like he'll be here next season, I don't think George is someone that's going to stick around. Has had a lot of injuries, not really been able to string 3 or 4 games together. And for that reason, we're trying to reduce the age of the squad and also reduce the amount of players who were injured quite a lot. And for me, George falls into that category, and I think it's time for him to move on, I think, from Mansfield. Another George, this one is the biggest no-brainer on this list, to keep George Maris around. One of our best players when he's fit, but he is less injury prone, I would say, than some of the ones I've already talked about, and his impact is absolutely phenomenal on us. You can really tell when he's playing. The last 2 games we've had, Peterborough and Exeter, you can really tell he's been driving the team forward, especially Peterborough at home this week. He's been superb. He shoots on sight. He's got a really good shot on him. His passing and delivery is fantastic. So for me, George Maris is an absolute no-brainer. A multi-year deal for me. You've got to keep him around. I know he's been here a good 5 years or whatever it's been, but yeah, he's someone we need to keep around for a long time. Lee Gregory, I would offer Lee Gregory a new deal. Again, a 1-year deal potentially with an option, but if we have the option, I would definitely exercise that option. Top goal scorer for us until he got his injury, and absolutely, if he'd have added another, probably even if he'd have added only another 5 or 6 goals, he would have been our top goal scorer. He was always in and around the League One top goal scorer rankings until his injury. He's getting on a bit in footballing terms, but you'd be daft, I think, not to offer him another 1-year deal, at least to keep him around for next season and see how he gets on. He's lethal in and around the box, so definitely Creek Gregory for me. Moving on now to Aaron Lewis. This is a difficult one, because depending on the rebuild, if we're doing a big rebuild, which in my head is required, this is why I'm sort of putting him in this category. I think the club may offer him a new deal, but for me, I don't think he's done enough to warrant another deal in League One. When he has played, he's had patches of good play, and then he's just gone missing for a few months, which could absolutely be said for the majority of the squad this year. But I don't think Aaron Lewis has done enough for me to be in League One next season. He has got some talent, absolutely, but we just haven't seen it enough. And he did have a period of starting a lot of games, but it just wasn't happening. The midfield this season for us has been a real weak link, and Aaron Lewis has been a part of that and has been in that. Very similar to Boateng. I think Lewis is probably slightly better than Boateng in terms of performances this year. But for me, unfortunately, I wouldn't offer Aaron a new deal. Alfie Kilgore. I would probably keep Alfie for another season. He's had his injury. We haven't really seen him come back. We were looking at building the squad around Alfie Kilgore when he first signed. Those 6 months after he signed were superb. And then he came in the promotion season, again started well, and then got injured at Doncaster. We didn't see him for the rest of the season. We only saw him at Blackpool at the start of this season. But he seems like a real cheerleader for the squad. Real buys into what we're about at Mansfield. And for that reason, I think I would keep him around for another year. along with Abedi Karga that we spoke about, and other defenders that we've got already at the club. So for me, I would offer him a 1-year deal, and I would keep him at the club for another 12 months. Aidan Flint, I mean, he was fantastic against Exeter on Saturday, just gone, when this video is filmed. But I think it's time to say goodbye to Aidan. He played 2 seasons, this season, last season. Absolutely immense last season. One of the real reasons we got out of League Two was Aidan Flint, along with Keeler Dunn. He was immense. And this season, to be honest, when he's played, he's never let us down. I just think at his age, I think, and the way with the style we're trying to play football on the ground. I mean, his long passing is superb, but we've not really had anyone up front who can sort of get those long balls. So for me, I think his age, and along with the way we're trying to play, I think for me, Aidan Flint will go. But he has been superb, and a player I'm delighted to have a couple of shirts from. You can see one of them behind me up there. A player that I'm really delighted to that we've had. Shame it came at the end of his career. Obviously, Mansfield weren't good enough when he was at his peak. But yeah, he was a fantastic player. But for me, he's in the release category. Next up is Rhys Oates. For me, this is a bit of a no-brainer. He's been injured far too much, hasn't played. I know Clough likes him a lot, and when he's fit and firing, he can be very destructive. But for me, I don't think League One is really where his level is at the minute, and I don't think we can afford to waste a squad space on a player who's injured so much. But scored some great and vital goals for Mansfield. But I don't think even since the playoff final season, 21-22, he's really been at it since then. So for me, it's quite an easy decision to release Rhys, unfortunately. Louis Reed I would keep. He's had his ups and downs, but for me, he's still a player could really play at the top of this league, and if not the league above, when he's on song. I don't think the system of 5 at the back has suited him at all, because it sort of pushes him higher up the pitch. He doesn't have as much time and space, and then he gets overwhelmed in there by teams who are playing more in the middle than we are. The 4-4-2 diamond that we played last season really suited him, where he could drop into the back 4 and spray passes left, right and centre. For me, it's a no-brainer to keep Reed around. He's a quality player, and hopefully with a little bit more steel around him in midfield next season, he can continue to grow with the Stags. Matthew Craig, for me, hasn't been good enough, and has got injured as well. I think there's a player in there, and he proved it at Donny last season. But for me, I wouldn't try and re-sign Craig. Jordan Bowery, wow. Came runner-up in my own player of the season vote, but for me, if the season had gone on for another month, I think Jordan probably would have won it, because as Deji was sort of dropping off a little bit due to injury and various factors, Jordan was absolutely flying. He's one of our key players. I never thought I would say that in League One when he was playing up front 3 seasons ago, to be now one of our best defenders, best centre-backs. His performance against Exeter this weekend again was superb. He's a 7 or 8 out of 10 every game. He could be man of the match for me most weeks. So we absolutely need to tie Jordan down to a contract, because he could easily move to another League One club. He's been superb, and I definitely want to keep Jordan around. And the same goes for this guy, Steve McLaughlin. I don't know whether him or Jordan have got options, or Reed, but for me, if we have, we need to be exercising them. Steve McLaughlin's been superb. His first half of the season went a little bit under the radar, didn't play as much. And Fraser Blake-Tracy played quite a bit at the start of the season, then he got injured. But McLaughlin, the second half of the season, has been absolutely superb. And he's easily earned himself a new contract here. The fans love him. The club love him, and he seems to love the club. Listen to his interview this weekend, so he's a no-brainer to keep around the place, and hopefully can see out the rest of his career at Mansfield. Caelan Vickers is an interesting one. I'm going to put in here to try and offer him a new deal. I know he's not our player. He's on loan from Brighton. I would certainly try and get him on loan again next season. I don't think our system suits us playing the 2 up front. I think he needs to be behind the strikers, in my opinion, where he can float around and get a lot of space, similar to Keeler Dunn last season. But he's fantastic. He's probably one of the most skillful players I've ever seen at the club. Maybe even since the likes of Wayne Corden, who could just beat a man effortlessly and put balls in or shoot. Vickers is certainly on that sort of level, if not better. So without a doubt, we should kind of keep him around. May not be possible. He's obviously in the Premier League at the minute with Brighton, but yeah, someone I would absolutely love to see at the One Call next season. Right then, moving on to Scott Flinders. I think it's pretty clear that Scott is probably going to leave the club. He played and kept a clean sheet this weekend against Exeter in the final game of the season. But for me, it's a release. I think we need a real shake-up of our goalkeeping department. So yeah, I think Scott's been a great servant as a number 2. Delighted to have a few shirts of his in the collection as well. But for me, he's coming to the end of his career here at Mansfield. But yeah, played well this weekend. Callum MacDonald is an interesting one. I don't think this will happen, but I would probably offer Callum MacDonald a new year. I think whenever he's played, he's been very solid. He gets up and down the wing. He's got great stamina, puts a very good delivery in. Clough, for me, will probably stick him in here. I think Clough will release him, but I would probably keep him around for another season, Callum MacDonald. Some might disagree, but I think him and McLaughlin and Fraser Blake-Tracy offer... McLaughlin playing the centre of a 5, as can Blake-Tracy. MacDonald is more of a fullback or a wing back, but I think to have those options at the club, I think with the injuries to Blake-Tracy and what Macca have had, I think MacDonald for me is an option that I'd like to keep around. I think he said he'd like to stay, but I don't think he will go for the new deal, but for me I would. Owen Mason proved to me in one game at Peterborough that he has enough to stay and fight for a place here. I don't necessarily see him as a number 1. I think we need to strengthen the number 1 department. But whether we keep him or whether we loan him out, I don't know. He kind of needs to be playing games. But I'd like to see him play maybe cup games if we've got a number 1 who plays in the league. Maybe playing in the EFL Trophy and the Carabao Cup potentially. But yeah, I'd like to see Owen Mason around, be it we either keep him and offer him a new deal or we loan him out next season. Moving on to Ben Waine. Ben scored a great goal yesterday against Exeter, the final game of the season, on loan from Plymouth, but for me he goes back to Plymouth. Hasn't had a lot of opportunity, but unfortunately for me, when he has come on, he's been a little bit too lightweight. He runs around a lot, but doesn't really make a massive difference. Gets too easily pushed off the ball. For me, isn't a League One standard player, but goes back to Plymouth with our blessing, I'm sure. But I don't think we'll try and sign him next season. So the last 2, Tom Nichols was there, but obviously he left the club. James Gale, I would like to see him at the club. I think we've got some good options up front. We need to strengthen without a shadow of a doubt. But for me, James Gale, having seen the goals he scored at Boston, and I know he hasn't started every week at Boston in the National League, so you think, well, how can he play in League One? But for me, he's a great option to have. He's an outball, he's strong, he's powerful, he wins headers. And I'd like to see him around the club giving another go. Whether he goes out on loan again, I don't know, but for me, he needs to stay and hopefully fight for a place at least from the bench in the first team. So that leaves one player on the list, which is Dom Dwyer. I would absolutely hand him a new deal without a shadow of a doubt. He's been superb for me. He scored goals, he's a poacher, he gets in the box. Defenders would not like to play against him. Me and my dad watched him yesterday quite closely, and he was shoving defenders out of the way. He was pulling their shirt. He was getting involved. He won a lot of headers. He's really good at taking balls down on his chest and then passing them to others. And had a real good strike force with Will Evans on Wednesday night against Peterborough. For me, I would absolutely like to see him stay at the club next season, be given another year. I know his age, I know he's mid-30s. We're trying to get the age down of the squad, but for me, him and Gale and Will Evans and Gregory and certainly one more sort of leading marksman, I think would really, really help. And that's a unit of 5 strikers that for me would be good enough for us and a good quality for Mansfield to take into next season. So that's it for the tier list of players that we like to keep. To recap, the ones we've got keeping, we've got Cargill, Maris, Gregory, Kilgore, Reed, Bowery, McLaughlin, Vickers, hopefully try and get him, MacDonald, Mason, Gale and Dwyer. Already in the contract, we had Evans, Bacchus, Oshilaja and Blake-Tracy. Release, we've got Pim Akins, Boateng, Hewitt, Quinn, Williams, Lewis, Flint, Oates and Flinders. Try and loan out Ben Quinn. And then Rhodes, Craig and Wayne to expire. So that leaves us with 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17 players for next season. With a squad of 23, that leaves 6 to come in, which is kind of about what Nigel Clough was talking about. Some of those potentially could go out on loan, maybe Mason or Gale if we need to bring more in. But I think that's roughly around the sort of numbers that we'll keep. I think Clough might keep a few more that I've put on the release list, but we'll see. So thank you very much for watching the video. If you could like and subscribe, please click the little like button. It really does make a difference to me, and subscribe as well if you haven't. There's also a link for the Patreon in the account as well, on in the video in the description, with links to that as well. So yeah, thank you very much for all your support, and we'll see you in the next one.